Brackenridge Park Golf Course was designed well after the original Brackenridge Park. The green space was built. A guy by the name of George Brackenridge, and he dates back to the middle 1800s, was a very important person around San Antonio. He owned a lot of mercantile banks. He was into cattle and lumber. A very industrious person. When he died, he gave the city of San Antonio a lot of land, and it was under the pretense that it had to be used for green space only. So one of the tenets of that then was that the city was going to build a golf course on part of that green space. Brackenridge Park Golf Course was designed by a guy by the name of A.W. Tillinghast, which for golf aficionados was a very legendary designer in the 1900s. He designed such golf courses like Winged Foot, Baltusrol, and Bethpage Black, which are incredible golf courses and well regarded around the country for hosting U.S. Opens, PGA Championships, U.S. Amateurs, major golf tournaments. So to put Brackenridge Park in the same category of those is very nice. Some of the hallmarks of what Mr. Tillinghast created with Brackenridge Park is square greens, which is a little bit of an anomaly in typical golf courses today, and really a neat feature of that golf course. Neat thing about the clubhouse at Brackenridge Park, it's the second clubhouse and it's 95 years old. The clubhouse as it stands today is this beautiful Tudor architectural masterpiece, and it was built in 1923, and as you can see when you look at the outside of the building, there's a plaque that dates back to 1923. The original clubhouse that was built in 1916, the year the golf course was designed, burned down in a fire. So some of the city elders and city leaders wanted to build a real stately clubhouse. So this one was built down in 1923. The interesting thing about the clubhouse, and it's a massive space inside, and you just see the history and the ghosts of everyone that's been through the clubhouse. But in the early days of the Texas Open, a lot of the younger touring pros and the players that really hadn't quite made a name for themselves yet, they used to stay in the dormitories that were on the second floor of the clubhouse. So what were the dormitories in the early and middle 1900s are now our corporate offices, and that's where my office is, upstairs where the dormitories used to be. There's great history around the golf course. In fact, there's a water pump station that was the main water pump artery in the city of San Antonio that was built in the late 1800s, also by Mr. George Brackenridge. He owned the water plant. So there was water that drained through an acequia that came all the way through the golf course, which made a nice hazard, and players had to play around this water trough or this acequia that came through the golf course. But that flowed into the pump house, and then the pump house utilized that water and pumped it up to some of the main areas in San Antonio. So after that water pump house was no longer needed, the building sat dormant for a while, and then in the early 1900s, a famous architect came in and utilized that for his sculpturing and for his creating art. A guy by the name of Gutzon Borglum, whom a lot of people wouldn't recognize that name, but a lot of people do recognize Mount Rushmore and the significance of what Mount Rushmore has played. Well, Gutzon Borglum was the sculptor that created Mount Rushmore. So what he did in San Antonio was spent his winter times creating the renderings and creating the design work that he would later take up to South Dakota and then utilize to create Mount Rushmore. The Texas Golf Hall of Fame is now housed at Brackenridge Park. It boasts a Walk of Fame, which is monuments outside of the buildings, which have all the inductees and any person that's ever been enshrined in the Texas Golf Hall of Fame. Also on the inside is memorials and artifacts of all the players and all the greats in Texas history that are in the Golf Hall of Fame. There's an annual celebration every year and an annual golf tournament where the new class gets inducted in San Antonio every year. Well, we hope that the Brackenridge Park, as it stands today, and will resemble the great history of golf for generations to come. There's some really old, wonderful oak trees that may not stay a whole lot longer, and we'll plant some new ones behind it. But it's such a wonderful, wonderful golf course, and it brings back so many great memories for so many players. And it's fun that we have grandparents that bring their grandkids out to play the golf course today, and they're telling their grandkids that they used to play there 40 and 50 years ago. And I hope that same story holds true for the kids that are out there playing now with their grandparents, that they can take their grandkids at some point in time and help them understand what the history of Old Brack is all about. Brackenridge Park today is thriving as much as it ever has. Brackenridge Park is part of the Alamo City Golf Trail, which is 8 golf courses in the city of San Antonio, which our company manages. But Brackenridge Park today hosts many elite amateur golf tournaments, from women to juniors to seniors and every golfer in between. It's a big tourist attraction. We get a lot of golfers that come from all around the country to specifically play, partly because it hosted the PGA Tour's inaugural Texas Open in San Antonio, and also because they want to play in the footsteps of where many of the great players in the game have. So Brackenridge Park's legacy and history is thriving as much as it ever has today.